Hello and welcome to episode 1260 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Thursday, February 22nd. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this afternoon by Sean Bouchard. Justin Mason. Justin, how's it going? You're wearing your Bouchard jersey in honor of some news that he's angling toward the starter's role right now.
Yeah, baby. You know what the funny part is like we've talked about this already multiple times today. And when you started introducing me to Sean, I was like, how did he get my name that wrong? Like I didn't even my mind is so locked into TGFBI and Potapalooza and projections and articles and
It's that
that
time of year, man, where
oh my god.
we are just locked.
I need middle of March to get here so bad. So I can just focus on drafting and podcasting and oh my god.
Yeah,
Man.
the next 3 weeks are the insane time. It's a great time of year. Awesome to be a baseball dude or dudette getting into this stuff, but it is definitely the intense time of year. And you know what's funny, by the way, with the Bouchard thing? He was only on our, kind of any other names of our
Yeah.
outfield preview there that we went so deep on. I feel like we kind of gave him a little short shrift. Like we did talk about him. We, brought up how, much of a fan you are of his for how he helped you last year. And I think you even co-signed going for him. But now here we are with a real chance of him getting the right field job. Is he somebody that should be going like way up in fantasy rankings? Like, should he be a standard 30 round pick now? A piece of the Rockies outfield? Possibly, at least. Again, things could change in spring, but he is angling, he's got the bead on the job there, Sean Bouchard.
Yeah, I mean, if he's the full-time guy there, there is real power in the bat. The question is, will they continue to run him out there every day if he's striking out at a 30% clip? But it's not like they've got a ton of options necessarily. And while the strikeout rate was a 30% clip last year, I mean, it was only 43 plate appearances. The swing and strike rate was below 15%. So you think that should come down and be more like a, I don't know, 28% strikeout rate kind of guy. 600 plate appearances, man. There is a possibility where he could really be like a 25 plus homer bat.
Exactly. So that could be really interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, don't forget Coors BABIP, right? You get that extra BABIP help.
We saw what it did for Nolan Jones,
Yeah.
And Bouchard's a 600 pick type of guy right now. I think if you're in the DC, you definitely need to be on that because I don't think the price is going to rise too much in the DC market. I think it could start to rise, as we get into spring and it looks clear that he's going to get the job. But even then, I mean, what are we thinking? Like the high end would be 450, I feel like, for Sean Bouchard.
Yeah, he'd still be end of your draft in a 15 teamer.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good gamble right there. I mean, at worst, you drop him if he's not getting full-time playing time. But right now, it seems like he's going to get at least the opportunity to win that job. And, big spring could bust him up a little bit more.
Yeah, so stay tuned on him. And again, put him on your DC rosters for sure, because even if he is a part-timer, that's fine to get somebody that late in the 600s or 500s, 600s, in a 50-round draft and hold. Let's talk about some infielders moving before we start our SP preview here. Hey, the show was on this one. You had identified that Miami needed to make a signing for one of two guys. Now, both have signed into Florida. At first, we saw Ahmed Rosario. We'll actually get to him second. But we saw him sign with Tampa, and it was like, dang, right state, wrong team. But then the other one that you thought they could really go out and get, they do indeed do it. The Marlins signed Tim Anderson to a one-year deal. It's a great gamble for them at $5 million. See what he's got left in the tank. I just don't think he's as bad as he was last year. 2% homer to fly ball rate. Come on. Just a washout year. Got his clock cleaned by J-Ram as well. Nothing went right, but he's 31 years old. I think it's a great gamble for them. I've been taking the gamble on him in fantasy. He's definitely going to jump up the board. But again, I don't think this is going to be a jump that's going to become cost prohibitive either for Tim Anderson. What were your first thoughts when you saw that you were right on this one? Good call.
Thank God, because I have him in 3 leagues already, and I got him at a discount. So I'm pretty happy. This DC I'm currently in, I actually have Tim Anderson and Ahmed Rosario because I was on the clock when Rosario signed. And I was like, well, screw it. I guess I'll just take him. Yeah, nice little gambles that are going to pay off. I mean, it's kind of a perfect fit for Tim Anderson. It's kind of perfect fit for the Marlins. He gets full-time playing time. Obviously the park isn't great, so you can't really expect like the days of 17, 20 home runs, but like you got one last year.
Yeah,
So
it should be
like,
better than one.
yeah. So I mean, I would expect that we're looking, 7, 8 home runs and a handful of stolen bases, maybe back, he had 13 the last 2 years, but maybe he gets a couple more, maybe like 15. And 270 batting average in
I,
a
I I think you're
decent
selling the
lineup.
SBs short
Oh,
because,
do you?
take full advantage of the rules. And if he's fully healthy again for Tim Anderson, getting back to, well, I shouldn't say back to, I guess he does kind of play like a low 500s output. So
Mhm.
I will still think that he can get higher if things are working for him and he has better than a 286 OBP. I think he can push 20. But yeah, if you just plan for something like you said, 7 to 10 homers and, in the 15 to 20 range of SBs, the batting average is the key, right? And that park, while it isn't great for power, it is good for batting average with the spacious outfield. And if Tim Anderson can just dot the ball all over the place with a bunch of base hits, I think it can absolutely work. So I like this. I'll pencil him in for a 275, knowing that there's a 300 in the back pocket. And now with the signing here, ADP of 356 over the last month. And this is being recorded on, or excuse me, in just this month only here, in the month of February, 26 drafts. This is being recorded on February 22nd. Where do you see this going? Is this going to inside the top 300, into the low 300s? I'd be surprised if it soars, but it is a big name in Tim Anderson. Where do you think his ADP goes from here? And will you still be in?
I don't think the ADP is going to soar. Like I think maybe inside the top 300, but like
Maybe.
he was so bad last year.
Yep.
And the signing is so late that like part of the reasons why people like, kind of soar up the ADP is because we have no other news other than signings. Now we're getting other news,
Yeah.
so I do expect him to rise, but I don't expect him to rise that far. And to be quite honest, it's too good of a deal to pass up, to be honest. Like
Agreed.
I mean, this is a guy who's like in the past few years has been like a top 50 pick when he's healthy in
Hmm.
fantasy, like every year. And now like even if he moves up, let's say like 250, like okay, like I still
And
think
that'd
he's
be
probably
that'd
worth
be
that
like
gamble.
the crazy high end because you look, there's actually kind of a pocket here that Tim Anderson could fit in with Zach Neto going 268 and then not until Jordan Lawler at 305. That's the next shortstop. So he could fit right in the middle there. Tim Anderson could at like
That's probably
285.
where he should fit. Yeah.
Yeah, that would make more sense to me. If you go up to 250, then you're talking in between Carlos Correa and JP Crawford. Maybe that's where his min will be. I could see him spiking up there on occasion. Right now, his min is 312 for the month. So, yeah, bottom line is even with the jump up, I think everything that we're going to see out of Tim Anderson is going to be pretty affordable. Justin and I are in. Finding late batting average is tough. It's going to be a little empty because I don't think there's going to be a big power return, like you said. But if he can eke his way to double digits, and hey, what if he finds 140 games? Now that is very much the high upside. Everything goes super well for you. Do not plan for that because it's been 123, 79, 123, 49 in the shortened season, and then 123 again in 2019. He really likes 123 games, so maybe that should be the projection for Tim Anderson. But good signing by the Marlins, and I'm going to keep drafting him. What
Also
about the other
helps
guy?
their defense quite a bit up the middle
Yes,
because that
solid
defense up the
defender.
Wendell being their everyday shortstop would have been a disaster.
That's the thing. Even if you don't think that Tim Anderson's like a huge glove, which he's not like top of the scale, way better than Joey Wendell. So it's going to help the
Yeah.
pitchers as well. Staying in Florida, the other guy I mentioned, Ahmed Rosario, going to Tampa Bay. This is interesting because we had kind of briefly talked about him the other day, and you and Jason were like, well, Tampa Bay probably won't get him because his glove is so bad. And
Mhm.
they said, you know what? We'll take the shot. Maybe try to hide his glove around the diamond. I doubt he plays any real shortstop, even though they kind of have an opening there with Caballero being the guy penciled in. Taylor Wallace working his way back. I still would be surprised if Rosario got many looks there because of his defense, but they'll probably dot him around the infield and outfield. Do you like this fit for Ahmed Rosario?
It's kind of a perfect like platoon partner with Brandon Lau if
It
he's
really
gonna,
is at second base.
Yeah, I mean Lau's not been great against lefties in his career. He's injury prone. I think it's a kind of a really good spot for him. Caballero, like, it definitely could affect Caballero's playing time a little bit, but I just think he's so good defensively that his role is pretty solidified until Taylor Walls comes back. So
Then he'll have to see. Yeah. If he's
yeah,
performing Caballero when Walls gets back, I think he can still fight
yep.
him off. But if not, then that's when he would start to lose that PT there. So with Rosario, his price is cheap. You mentioned that you had scooped him in the DC. That's always fun in DCs when these late guys that straggle in sign. And if it happens
I
to fit
never
right
get
where
those guys like this
I'm
because like
always the unlucky one there. Yeah.
I'm always picking so quickly. I'm not like one of those people that just like waits and waits on the clock and stuff like that. But it just so happened that like I was like either in a meeting or something like when the signing happened, and so I've been on the clock for a couple hours, and all of a sudden, like
Bang.
hey, just grab it. Yeah, I mean, I really like this signing for the Rays and for Rosario. There are multiple avenues for playing time. They like these guys that can kind of be Swiss Army knives. I know he's bad defensively, and that will limit kind of his upside. Like even if Brandon Lau got hurt, like I just don't even know if they would make him the full time guy. Like maybe they bring up like a Curtis Mead or someone like that to play
I think
second. So
I think Rosario will lose that kind of fourth plate appearance a lot to a defensive replacement. I think we could see a bunch of that even if he does find himself in something of a starting role. He hasn't played the outfield since I guess 22, so he just didn't play it last year. But that is an avenue as well. Like he doesn't have a
yeah,
ton of experience there, but we know, like you said, the Rays love Swiss Army knives. They could consider him out there too, and just like I said, dot Ahmed Rosario all around the field, get him some PT. He's got a 340 ADP in the month. I don't expect this one to go very high either. Of course, he's also shortstop, so all those same points about where the pockets of value are apply to him as well. Maybe he finds his way in that Neto to Lawler range, the
yeah,
268 to 305. But I don't really see him surpassing much beyond that because I don't think many are going to see this as a full-time role. He'll have to earn the playing time. So
yeah.
I'm going to be fine even with a little bit of a price jump. I think the 340 is a fine price point as well.
I think as well. Yeah, I'm right
Okay.
there with you. I
Excellent.
will say before we move on, though,
Yes,
this does bury some of their prospects, right? Like,
it does.
if you really, some people were drafting like Junior Caminero like a little bit too early and still drafting Curtis Mead. Like, I would not be drafting them in Fab leagues.
Same. I'm worried. I'm focused on them for in season at this point
Yeah.
when something opens up to get them there. As it stands right now, I
Mhm.
just don't really see the value in drafting them. Love Caminero long term, but short term, no thanks. Gio Urshela signs with my Tigers, and I really like this move. I know there was a quote not too long ago from Scott Harris saying that they weren't going to go for anybody that was like an everyday guy the rest of the way. I think he was implying, the Boris Four weren't going to be on the Tigers' radar or anything. But I think Urshela could absolutely be the dude at third. If he's healthy, he had a big injury last year that undercut his season, but we are a year removed from 551 plate appearances with a 2.5 win season in Minnesota. There's no reason that he can't overtake that job. Right now, McKinstry and Veerling pencil in as guys that could get some PT there. And of course, Justin Henry Malloy is a guy that's in the minors working his way up, trying to get some third base reps. Jace Young is another youngster who could also fit in over there. But I think Urshela could kind of stave all of them off. He's a quality player. I love this move for the Tigers at 1.5 mil. And for Urshela, who's a nice, solid, kind of a DC boring guy who I think can at least get 450 plate appearances, if not another 550 like we saw in 22.
Yeah, I agree. I think, especially defensively, he's such a good defensive third baseman. So, uh, not a bad pick in a DC right now,
Yeah.
or even as like a last infielder on your bench in a 15-team league. I think this does like say like, hey, they're probably going to platoon guys like Colt Keith or Keith Colt, whichever way you want to look at it. But so just kind of keep that in mind that like they got three guys on their bench right now that could be looking at platoons and Carson Kelly, Andy Banez, and Matt Vierling. So it's a fine signing. I don't know that he's going to be a major target for me. It's not a great
No,
park. He's not been great offensively, but he could be a volume play.
solidly boring volume.
Yeah.
Exactly. He did hit 285 with Minnesota in that full year, and 299 last year. Like he was hitting a bit. The power was really not there yet, and maybe it would have gotten going, had he played more than 62 games, kind of back to his normal levels. He had a 374 slug, but it's a boringly solid pickup for the Tigers. I like it more for the real baseball aspect than the fantasy
Yeah,
aspect.
agreed.
Brandon Woodruff signing back to Milwaukee for 2 years. Obviously, we're not worried about this year because he's going to be out for pretty much the entire year. But for next year, they'll have him back, and I like that move. And I don't think there's a ton to analyze here. Do you try to get these guys in dynasty leagues at all?
Sometimes if like I don't mind going after guys who are getting Tommy John. The shoulder is a little bit more concerning because
True.
there was talk about this potentially being career ending. So I'm glad he got some money because he was supposed to hit free agency, I think, next year.
Yeah,
Um, and
and he would have
so
gotten a big fat deal.
yeah, had he been healthy. So I'm glad he got a little bit of cash. But ultimately, I probably am not seeking this out in a dynasty league unless he's like dirt cheap and you've got a lot of IL spots.
Yeah, and if I'm maybe in full rebuild.
Yeah.
If I'm one of the bottom feeding teams this year, knowing that I'm in for a bad year, sure, because I do love B Woody, but I'm not necessarily seeking it out. By the way, right now on my screen, Joe Musgrove is throwing to Mookie Betts, and they've got a little cutout of Fernando Tatis Jr. in the outfield. Baseball is back, baby. Baseball is
Got to turn
back.
it on while we talk.
That's right. It's on ESPN right now. Take a look.
Boom.
All right, let's get into some starters here. We're gonna get going here into our starter preview. I think it'll at least match the 4 episodes of the outfield, maybe 5, because we like to really go in depth with it and really get in to the pitching tiers. This one, the first couple tiers here, probably not going to have as much in depth just because, like, what can you say about Spencer Strider? Oh my God, he's good. And Garrett Cole. But that is our first one, the first round aces here. Strider, looking at the last month of drafts, 51 drafts since January 21st. He is 7th in ADP, and Garrett Cole is 13th. These are the only 2 guys that are going in the first round. Corbin Burns is right there with a min pick of 16, but that's it. Just Cole or Seager. I'm looking at a shortstop thing as I change back over to SP. Just Cole and Strider are the only 2 that you will ever see in the first round right now, consistently. What do you think about that? Oh, actually, no, wait, I am wrong. Burns did get in there. He has a min of 12, but his ADP is 18, so he'll be in the next year. But Strider, Cole, you taking either of them in the first round? I know we talked about how much we like those hitters that run about 8, 10 deep. Do you have to have a half in the first round pick? Do you ever jump up and take Strider early? Where are you at on the 2 aces in the first?
I've drafted both of these guys. When been in kind of the middle to kind of back end of the first round and Strider falls, I have no problem taking him there. And then I think I've taken Cole at 15 at least once, if not more than once. I'd have no problem taking them. I think they're about as safe as aces you can get. I know there has been some talk from some people in the industry about like, oh, Strider had a lot of innings, a big jump, he throws so violently, like he's going to get hurt. I just think that is overthinking things. And
Wait, isn't that like, didn't we complain that he didn't get enough innings and that was going to be the problem? And now they're using the opposite against him this year. Like, if you don't like Strider, that's fine. But at some point, you're kind of looking for a reason.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm the one who says like every pitcher is risky, and that is I stand by that firmly. But that means that I'm not going to overly critique somebody like Strider because he had a 55 inning jump. I mean, he's a stud. Like, we wanted him to get innings. He showed he can do a full year. And now I'm going to move away from him? I don't think so. Not with this talent.
No.
I'm in. And then Cole is just kind of the consummate ace these days. He's almost boring at this point. I think I've got 3 shares because I keep getting these late round picks. And I'm going, Cole big bat to kind of start things off. And I have no problem with that. So, yeah, I'm with you on both, too. The max pick for Strider is 11. So if you don't want to take him in that single digit, you can still get him. Is there ever a scenario where you are taking him in those single digit areas?
I mean, as we start getting to like the main event season, I definitely could think about it. But I just think there's so like when you start pushing into like the top 6 or 7, like you're really passing up on an elite bat. That can do
really, really hard.
And pitching is so deep, especially kind of in the like, second and third tiers, that I probably won't. Like I know like as we start moving towards the end of March, especially those of you playing like NFBC, but really playing in any league, we're gonna start seeing pitchers push up. Corbin Burns will be a first rounder. He'll probably be a back in the first round guy. And you will see Strider move into like the top 5 regularly,
And
and
he'll have a min of 1. Somebody will take
somebody
Strider
will
1
do, yeah,
overall.
somebody will do it. And then Cole move up probably into the middle of the first round, right? So I think at those prices, I'm more than likely going to just take a hitter. I
Yeah,
think
I just
Cole will
love those
be in the
hitters.
conversation for me, but I think more than likely, because when those pitchers move up, hitters are going to move down, and
Exactly.
all of a sudden, like you're going to be able to get, I was just in a draft. I was in the Barf League draft, and I was picking at 7, and Corbin Carroll fell to me. Like Corbin Carroll at
That's
7,
incredible.
like felt really really good to start. I think I started Corbin Carroll and Austin Riley, and uh, so like as those pitchers move up, like yes, some instances you're going to want to move up with those, and other instances you're going to get discounts on hitters, and hitters are safer.
Yeah, just generally they're going to be safer. Like I said, I do like Strider. I'm not using the innings jump against him or anything. I just am going to prefer those hitters though. So I don't see myself taking him outside of the occasional league where he does fall into the early double digit picks there. And if my
Yep.
set of hitters does fall go by the wayside there, then maybe I take him. But Cole, like I
Yep.
said, I've already got multiple shares, so maybe I'll probably. I don't know. I don't even want to say that I'll stop getting shares, because if he falls to me in the main and I'm sitting there at like 13, then I would probably take him again. I really
Yeah, I
don't
would too.
mind
Yeah.
stocking up on him. So yeah, those two are studs. Those are the two that, like I said, are going consistently in the first round. Burns is the only other one who makes it into the first round with his min, but these are the second, third round aces. Corbin Burns at an ADP of 21, Zach Wheeler 24, Kevin Gausman 28, Luis Castillo 29, George Kirby 34, Pablo Lopez 35, and Zach Gallen 40. Really interesting group of 7 arms here. Do you have a favorite at their current price?
Um, I like a lot of these guys.
It's a good group.
I think my favorite is probably Luis Castillo. I know that like George Kirby and Logan Gilbert are getting a lot of love in Seattle, especially from the fantasy community, especially Kirby. Kirby is
I was
just
gonna say,
continuously moving up. Like,
when is Gilbert getting love? Because he was shat on last year when I really saw him and Kirby to be so similar. It seemed like
yeah,
there's so much Kirby love. And again this year, which I co-signed, by the way. I love
yeah,
Kirby, but I really do love Gilbert. I feel like he kind of
I
gets,
did too.
I mean,
I
he
mean,
gets a
he
little
does
short
get a little,
shrift.
yeah, he does. But I think like if somebody's gonna win a Cy Young in Seattle, I think it's Luis Castillo.
He
I
was my
love
pick
what he
last year.
does, and I think he's probably going to be my pick this year for AL Cy Young. And you get him in kind of the middle of the second round in a 15 teamer, or back end of the first second round in a 15 teamer, and like yeah, so like you're talking about a third rounder in a 12 teamer. Sign me up. I love Luis Castillo.
Fully co-sign that. I really will take any of the 3 Seattle Aces without incident. I have no problem doing that. But yeah, definitely like Luis Castillo. And
There's
let's go
no
ahead.
one in this. There's no one in this tier that I'm avoiding. Like
Yeah,
there's definitely guys I get more often than others, but that's mostly because I'm usually going hitter in the first 2 rounds, and so I land on a lot of Pablo Lopez and Zach Gallen.
actually, I will say the one that I don't see myself landing on as much is Gosman. And I like Kevin Gosman. I was a fan, super fan back in the Baltimore days, waiting for him to turn into the stud I thought he could be. And, he finally got there a decade later. But, he's been a stud these last several years. But the BABIP keeps gnawing at me, because it did improve last year by 42 points, and yet he was still third worst in the league at 321. It's just that his 363 the year before was so insane. And I guess maybe it shouldn't bother me so much, because he's been successful in spite of that. And so if it actually improves, well, then look out. Then here comes a Cy Young caliber season, which I believe is what many are probably thinking. I totally get that. I guess I just haven't really landed on him. He hasn't been a full avoid, but I have kind of had that BABIP issue gnawing at me. Any thoughts to what's going on there with the 2 years of horrendous BABIP? Is it just splitter inconsistency? Is it the turf? Is it the defense? Is it a mix of all three? What's going on with Gosman's Babbitt?
I feel like it's the turf and the defense behind him a little bit. It's also he does allow a fair amount, of contact in the zone. He's 85% zone contact, which is league average, right? And usually when you have a guy like him, you want him to be below league average or
Mm-hmm.
above league.
Ground ball guy too, which
Yeah,
is going to
and it,
add to Babbitt.
yeah, and especially on that turf, right? Because the ball moves faster on the turf, the defense behind him. It's not bad necessarily, but it's not good either. I think he'll be fine. He's a guy that I don't tend to land on very often because I think I've got him lower in my ranks than all of these guys. Yeah, I think all of these guys. So for
Let
me,
me
like
pull up my
he's
ranks.
he now my ranks are still a work in progress because I've just started my pitching projections, but um, he's more than likely gonna be below every single one of these guys. Not necessarily a fair amount, but enough where if I'm sitting at his ADP's pick 28, if I'm sitting at pick 28, and I want to take a starter, I'm gonna take Luis Castillo. I'm gonna take George Kirby. I'm gonna take Pablo Lopez or Zach Gallen. So um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he's probably the one I avoid the most. Lopez is, if I'm going to avoid a second one, is probably next on that list, just because of the past health. But ultimately, he's had 2 healthy seasons. So I'm not overly worried about that.
Yeah, I just generally lean toward the two Mariners, and so you can't land on all of them, right? And when there
Yeah.
is a group here that you really like, some will say, "Oh, spread it out and get one of each," as you move over your
Mhm.
drafts. Others will say, "Oh, Tasker Hernandez with the 3-run shot." Others will want to, stick with their guys and kind of consistently get them. And for me, I do more of that where I will continue to get the same guys. And with me, it is the two Mariners with Castillo
Mhm.
and Kirby. All right, so let's talk. Let's talk. We talked Burns when he got traded, so we kind of has said that we think he's going to be a first rounder. We love him over there in
Yeah. It's a
Baltimore.
great spot for him. Yeah.
Zach Wheeler is not underrated because he's picked 24, but he feels kind of like the ho hum ace. Like, oh, I'll just take Zach Wheeler. I'll just pencil in another 2 bills. He's the fifth pitcher off the board. So again, I don't want to sit here and overstate like, oh, he needs love, but when I look at him, it does really feel like, wow, this is one of the most consistent, bankable guys. And that is still something that's difficult for me to get my head around, even though this is so long ago now. But remember when he missed all of 15 and 16 and then had 86 innings in 17? We're like, this guy's career is on the
Is
ropes
over.
here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and now he has emerged into one of the premier aces of the game. It's just so impressive to me. Now, I don't let any of that old injury history influence him. I only bring it up to say, like, wow, he's really come a long way, and career trajectories can really go so crazy like that. But is Wheeler somebody that you see as one of those bona fide aces, even though he is into his mid 30s now at 34? Do you pencil him in for the buck 85, buck 90? I said 2 bills. He really only has one 200 inning season, but he is one, the consistent everyday kind of guy in Philadelphia. Are you in on him? You said you like this whole group, of course, but do you like him at 34? And you start to worry that maybe some of those previous injury issues will crop back up?
You said he's the fifth pitcher off the board. He's actually the fourth pitcher off the board because Shohei Ohtani
Oh
does
yeah,
not count
Otani
as a
keeps
pitcher. So
confusing things. Yes.
um, I will be going back and forth all draft season on whether Zach Wheeler is the fourth or Luis Castillo is my fourth. But they're
It's a
going to
good
probably be
duo,
four. Yeah, they're going to be
good
4 or
duo to
5. Like,
debate.
yeah, so they're going to be 4 or 5. I love Zach Wheeler. I think you can pencil him for 190 innings and, good ratios, strikeout an inning or more. Like, I just love a guy who does not give up home runs, does not give up walks. Uh, like he is what people want George Kirby to turn into, and
That
people are
it's funny you
starting to
said that.
draft George
Yeah.
Kirby as Zach Wheeler, but George Kirby ain't there yet. Zach Wheeler is. I don't know if it's age or what that keeps people kind of pushing him down, but like there's probably no reason that Zach Wheeler isn't like like battling Corbin Burns for the number 3 spot, especially after Corbin Burns' last season. So, uh, yeah, I mean, there's a real argument for Zach Wheeler towards the back end of the first round, beginning of the second, as those pitchers move up.
Corbin Burns' season last year was very good. I don't like the narrative that he had any sort of struggles. I don't even want to say stumbled. He like
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, he
moderately
struggled to
tripped
started the year.
out of the
Yeah.
gate. It was two less than stellar starts. That's it. I want people, well, actually, you know what? People that draft with me, I want you to keep pretending that he had this big struggle season. But those of you listening that are going to go into your drafts and try to succeed, I want you to know that he did not have any real tangible struggle. It was two bad starts. They were bad. I do not deny that. But from that point on, it was 30 starts of a 3.08 ERA with 194 Ks and 184 innings. Corbin Burnes was Corbin Burnes outside of those two starts. I think it was just that first impression that really stuck with people. He led the National League in WHIP. So I like them as a 3-4 interchangeably. He and Burnes and Wheeler. I've got no issues with them. And then I have the two Mariners there, Kirby and Castillo at 5-6 in my in my rankings. Are you looking at Burnes' stats right now? Are you with me that maybe that's being a little overblown that he
Yeah.
struggled?
I
And
remember some
like
struggles down the stretch, but like they were kind of like interlaced with like dominant starts. So
it was, and it was
yeah,
you're probably looking at the August into September where he kind of had an
yeah,
up down thing. 5-0, 6-1, 4-0, 4. Like
hmm
those were his earned run totals. So it's like
that's exactly
that
what I was
little
looking at. But
inconsistency, and maybe that stuck with people too, because that's at the end of the year. But then he ended with 9 scoreless across his final 2 starts too. So
yeah,
Burnsy,
and
as locked as you can get.
he had a 3.2 ERA and over a strikeout an inning over the course of the last 2 months, 60 in the third inning. So like, yeah,
He's a
I mean,
monster.
he's fantastic, and he's moving to like the best park in baseball to pitch in right now. Like so,
Especially if you're right-handed, and
yeah,
you if you've ever expressed any sort of home run issue, that's a place to go get it fixed. Let's talk a little bit more about Kirby. You talk about how people want him to kind of become Zach Wheeler with the control-focused excellence, which I think is an interesting comparison that I can totally see. 3.35 ERA, 104 WHIP last year, just unbelievable command and control. 3% walk rate. When he had a 4% in 2022, I don't think anybody thought he was going to improve. And in fact, if you want to get to the decimal, he went from 4.1 to 2.5. So, rounding even underestimates how Kirby improved last year a little bit. He also is toying with that knuckleball. Like he threw the one last year that everyone loved. It was like in honor of Tim Wakefield, which was really neat. And then now he's kind of toying with it more. Maybe as like a weapon that he can just deploy a time or two per game if he needs to just kind of throw somebody way off kilter. But this isn't some soft tossing command guy either. He throws 96. I still think there's a giant strikeout spike capable. He might not get there because he doesn't have to. He has so much good control that he can just kind of get guys to roll over on something 2-3 pitches into account and go from there. But I still think that Kirby has the stuff to be a strikeout stud in addition to this great control artistry. Is he a future bona fide ace? Because I think he's not an ace yet until he shows kind of that strikeout per inning capability, but I believe he can get there. Do you think Kirby can be that ace? And will it be this year because he is a very expensive pick now?
I think that it can and will are two very different questions, right?
True.
Like, do I think he can? Yes, I think he can. I think he
What
has
is the
the talent.
likelihood of it? And is he worth the 34th pick then, I guess would be the next question.
I don't know that he will. I think that people are like, and we've seen other guys, and I'm blanking on some names right now to like kind of reference to where like we go, whoa, like he's like when you watch him pitch, you're like, oh man, this guy's got really great stuff. He throws 95, throws 96, throws 99. All he needs to do is miss some more bats. He's never really missed bats, and that's partially by design.
I've
Like,
got a name for you, and it's going to
okay.
sound weird because this guy ended so horribly that I don't think people remember how great this guy was. But Jordan Zimmerman was
Oh,
somebody.
that's a great example.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
that. I thought we
a
always
little bit
kind
of a
of.
different picture because I think Kirby does has it looks to have more dominant stuff than Zimmerman necessarily
But he
did.
threw 95. Like,
Yeah,
he didn't walk guys. And if you watched Zimmerman, you could see the secondaries be bat missers. But again, he didn't care about that
yeah.
because the efficiency was important to him. And that's how he maintained such a great walk rate. And again, he ended horribly with Detroit. But when he was with Washington, he was a monster. And so I wonder if it's going to be like that, where he's just always going to be that excellent number two. But now, unlike Zimmerman, Kirby's being ascended into an ace territory here at pick 34. And I do wonder if maybe, are we overpaying a little bit? I'm paying it. So I'm not saying it from the standpoint that I would agree, but I'm just asking the question of maybe do we need to check ourselves when the Lopez's and the Gallons and then the next tier that we're going to get into are going after him and they're much better strikeout guys than Kirby? Is he too expensive?
I don't think he's too expensive, but I also don't think you need those strikeouts to make a guy expensive because he threw 190 innings last year.
Yeah.
He's got the kind of body that we think can sustain that over the course, of the next few years at least. He's young. He's in a good park on a good team, and you can volume a lot of those strikeouts, even if you're not getting.
True.
Now he's a guy I want to pair like my number two better be a strikeout dude, but I think the reason why he deserves to be here is not the reason why he's being drafted here. He's being drafted here because people are like, he's got more strikeout stuff. There's more upside. He could be the number one pitcher in fantasy. I think the reason you should draft him here is because I think the floor is really, really high on a young guy, which is great. 190 innings last year, just a minuscule walk rate, less than a walk per 9 last year, a home rate at
It's
about
crazy.
1. Like, he's a horse.
He was the seventh. Sorry to interrupt you. He was the seventh starter on the auction calculator last year. So just a repeat
Yeah.
is fine.
Yeah.
That's a good point on your part. Like, you don't have to project all this improvement. George Kirby just repeating, you're getting there with the fifth starter overall.
And they're all, the other guys in this tier all have some sort
Or
of
seventh starter.
question mark. Or sorry, the other guys going behind him in this tier, in the Pablo Lopez, Zach Gallons. You can throw Kevin Gausman in there. They've all got, like, Kevin Gausman's got the BABIP issue. Pablo Lopez has prior shoulder issues that could be a little bit scary. Zach Gallen just threw like 7 million innings last year and had like
His
an elbow or
innings.
forearm issue last year as well. Like,
Yeah.
so like I think for me, it's less about like, ooh, I see the upside. If the upside comes, great. That is icing on the cake. A very, very tasty cake. But the reason the cake tastes good is because George Kirby's floor is so safe with that walk rate being so minuscule.
Yeah, I think that's a great call out. And now, talking about Gallen, now his innings, we talk about Strider and we're not really worried about his innings jump. Gallen going from 184 last year to 243 this year when you factor in the playoffs, and you should take those 33 and 2/3 and kind of do like a 1.25 on him, in terms of like the pressure that they put on him because they're playoff innings. That my boy who just went yard. Somebody else just went yard. Was that Gavin Lux? Say the name. Oh, Kevin Padlow. No, not Gavin Lux. I don't care. But so, it's more like 42 innings almost, in addition to the 210 in the regular season. So he's pushing almost 250 there. Does that give you any pause with Zach Gallen? Again, you did say that you generally like everyone in this tier, so nobody you're hating on. But as you make your decisions and you keep going back to Castillo and Wheeler and Kirby, are you moving off of Gallen because of the workload at all?
No.
Okay.
I mean, like, I know other people are. I mean, some people are like, but that just gives you a guy who can throw 200 innings at a discount. Like, that's just fine. Like, I will probably bounce Zach Gallen and George Kirby back and forth in my ranks, but my guess is that, let's see, if Wheeler and Castillo bounce between 4 and 5, Gallen and Kirby will probably be 6 and 7. Like, that's
Who's
I
your 5?
no.
Oh, Castillo's your 5. Yeah.
Castillo's my 5.
I got Kirby 5, Castillo 6, Gallen 7, and then Gausman 8. Okay. And then you mentioned Pablo Lopez here. Anything else to add? Like, I like him. I don't really have a whole lot to add. I think he's a stud. It was always the health. He's one of those guys that I was always drafting because it's like, hey, the talent's there. Just show me some health. And now he's done it 2 years in a row. Like you said, in the back of your mind, you think about the shoulder and it's like, okay, he could get hurt again, but what pitcher couldn't? I
Yeah.
love what he's able to do. Any concern then? I'll ask one question. Any concern that at the elevated ERA a little bit? 375, 366. The whips have been excellent. The volume's been there. Do you have any issues on that? Or do you think you could actually improve upon that when you look at a 337 Sierra last year versus the 366 ERA with Lopez?
Yeah, the xERA was even lower. It's 3 flat. Like I have zero concerns on Pablo
Yeah.
Lopez. I think the only concern with me is that little voice in the back of my head that goes shoulder injury. He's had lots of shoulder.
Yeah.
But it has been 2 straight years where he's made 32 starts. He's thrown at least 180 innings in each one of those seasons. No reason to think like at this point that that's going to reoccur. So,
yep, I definitely agree there. Did we talk about Kodai Senga starting on the IL?
we
I crossed
did.
it off our list, and let's just talk about him in the tier then.
Okay.
Because he's at the end there. But yeah, he is going to start on the IL because I crossed it off our list on accident. I don't know why I did that. All right, let's
You can
talk about
cross
the
him off your
risky.
draft sheet too, because I'm not.
Yeah,
drafting
you should definitely do that because we're not drafting him now. Justin and I were just not taking the guys that are going to start on the IL. In most drafts, there's certain formats where maybe you can, but we'll talk about that. Risky aces. Okay, we just got past this group here where you did come up with some question marks for the 7 that we just talked about, but those are pretty. I don't want to say flimsy because I'm not trying to undercut what you said. They're not game-changing question marks that takes you off of them. These next 5, I think you can ask some really tough questions about them, and a lot of people are going to have them off their board at these price points. Tyler Glass now at 41, Yoshinobu Yamamoto at 43, Tariq Skubal at 50, Freddie Peralta at 55, and Blake Snell at 67. You got the reigning NL Cy Young. You got Peralta coming off an excellent season. You got Yamamoto coming over from Japan. Glass now going to the Dodgers off of his career high of 120 innings. And then Skubal with a brilliant half season that left everyone with a great taste in their mouth at the end of the year. But it's a half season. Now he's going 50. This is an expensive group. Let's start with the 2 Dodgers, Glass now and Yamamoto. You pay in these top 45 price points, which is a top 3 round pick for either of them in the 15 teamers.
No.
And so obviously with Glass now, it's the health piece.
Yeah,
with
it's just the innings. And I like Glass now, like I know like people like every year we have this conversation with Glass now, and every year I say I'm just not doing it. It's too expensive at the price. Last year he set a career high in innings pitched. It was 120.
I know. That's hilarious.
And I have this argument with everybody every year, and like I get it, like on a per inning basis, he's elite, but like at some point you need volume. Like, and I just
sure.
I can't project volume for him.
What if okay, that's totally fair. But it's like the DeGrom thing at this point. Obviously, we're not drafting DeGrom this year, but like even in these past years, like when we were kind of starting to draft him, it's like, well, I'm not going to plan for the full return of Jacob DeGrom. What if you carve out a plan for it, though? What if you, with intent, get Logan Webb and Tyler Glass now, or Framber Valdez and Glass now, or you go Wheeler, Webb, Glass now as your top 3 or something,
Sure,
whatever that is? Would you be open to that? I'm not saying that you do it because clearly you don't want to do it.
No, I'm not open to it.
You don't co-sign somebody doing that?
No, I don't. I just because, like you said, every pitcher is risky. Yep. So it's not like you can you're gonna pencil in 190 or 200 innings with a guy like Webb or Glass now.
But it's pencil, it's not ink.
But it's pencil, and all of a sudden you only get 120 innings, and let's say you get 60 from Framber because he blows out his UCL. Now you're missing way too many innings. You're missing way too many strikeouts. I just think it's such a risk early on to take. Like if you want to take like a high upside gamble, like go take Tristan McKenzie like way later. I don't like that gamble either, but I would much rather
cheaper.
I would much rather take it at the price. Like I don't understand like why we have this and 1 year I'm going to be wrong. It may be this year, right?
But it isn't wrong though either, right? Because it's one of those
process.
things.
Like I'm doing the right process.
Exactly. We made this joke for years on the Sale thing, right? People kept projecting his injury. 10 years later, they got it right. okay, nice victory lap, dork. Like you were wrong for someone. That's on the opposite end of things. But like, even if people do get the Glass Now season, I agree. I don't think that they should enjoy it. I won't want rain on their parade, but I will say like, when you're looking at this process, I stand by that process of not wanting to get
This,
a guy whose career high is 120 innings in a top 50 pick. That's
I
so
think we
expensive.
I think we forget, or I think a lot of people forget, like that Tyler Glass now had a career in Tampa Bay, or sorry, a career in Pittsburgh before Tampa Bay. They're like, well, he's only been around for like 4 or 5 seasons. Like at some point, he's no, like this is his ninth season in the
Yep,
major leagues,
he's 30.
and he's only twice crossed the 100 inning threshold and never
This
gotten
is
to past 120. Like it's just like it's insane to me that we keep having this argument. And like, yes, I know last year I made this argument with Blake Snell, and Blake Snell went on to win the Cy Young. That's in the range of outcomes. But you know what else is in the range of outcomes? 57 innings,
yeah,
60 innings, because he's done that twice.
yeah, and that's the thing. That's actually a great case. There is bring. God dang it! Someone just got drafted in my Tout Wars. 3 picks in a row, the top 3 in my queue: Royce Lewis, Bobby Miller, and Alex Bregman. That is not very nice. It's an OBP league, so that's really not cool. Kyle Elfrink. Anyway, Snell's a great example because you use the same thing with him. This is exactly what you said. And yeah, you quote unquote lost last year, but it's the process of not wanting to take a guy that has this kind of injury or injury and volume risk, and that's why you don't do it.
But it was even better with Snell last year because like you weren't paying this price on Snell
No,
last year.
that's the thing. He was not this expensive.
Like,
This is listen, I've said this before with Glass Now. This is pretty privilege run amok. This is
yeah,
hot people get everything, including
absolutely.
high draft slots. It's just if he was ugly, we would not be taking him this high. I'm only partially kidding. He is insanely good looking, and it's kind of ridiculous. It pisses me off. Now
Yeah.
Yamamoto doesn't come over with the major threat of pitching 50 innings due to health because he's pitched healthily in Japan, but I imagine that this is year one of a big deal coming halfway across the world, is why you're staying away from him. Yes.
Yeah, well, and just the price. Like, I mean, we're talking about like a top 40, top 50 price. Like, it's just that's a lot to gamble on a guy who's never seen major league hitting.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, I actually don't have as big of an issue with Yamamoto going as high as he is. I just doubt I'm ever going to be the guy that takes him, and I think
But you
especially
take him. You could actually see yourself maybe taking him over Glass. Like Glass now is fully out for
yeah,
you. It seems.
yeah,
Is there a world where Yamamoto dips 10, 15 picks beyond ADP where you would jump?
Yeah, I think to be quite honest, like looking kind of just at the ADP as it is, if Yamamoto dropped below the next guy in Tariq Skubal, I would think I would take Yamamoto over Blake Snell and over Freddie Peralta.
Okay.
So I could definitely see myself doing it. Will that happen? Probably not. And if it
Unfortunately, it's
does,
going the other way.
yeah, and if it does happen, it would have to be because Yamamoto is my second.
Yeah, yeah, I'm totally with that. If I was making Yamamoto my second guy to go
Like if
with
I
my
go
Cole,
Garrett Cole in the first round and
yeah,
then I got Yamamoto in the fourth round, okay. Yeah,
yeah.
I could do
If he
that.
can cushion my risk,
Mhm.
that's something I can get behind. But like I said, he's going the opposite way,
Yeah, it's not
and
gonna happen.
we said this about a bunch of guys, but it's about to start happening. We got the first game going right now. There's a handful of guys that once they are showing positivity in spring, price is going to go up. And Glass Now is one
Yep.
of them too. This price
Yep.
could rise on Glass Now.
It will
That's
rise
the
probably.
craziest
Yeah.
part. Yes. And I can't get behind that. Yamamoto, I'm more open to.
Yeah.
Scooble, I'm a Tigers fan. I love Scooble. I'm in-ish. I'm in-ish, Justin. 50's tough. At least he has a full season under his belt, right? Like we're not projecting him to do something he's never done like you might be with Glass Now, right? Because Glass Now's peak is 120. At least Scooble has made the 30 plus turns. He did so, actually it was 29 starts and 2 relief appearances, but it was 149 innings back in 2021. And then a relatively full season in 2022. Well, not that full, 118 innings, but hell, even that is close to Glass Now's career high. But then just 80 innings last year. They were immaculate. Is that enough to get you on board with Scooble, who people are projecting to take the leap? Plus, it's age 27, which means it's automatically perfect. But can you take the risk on Scooble?
I have, and I
Oh,
will.
you've already got him.
Yeah. I
Good.
guess I
I
must
love it.
have I must have 7, and I'm drafting my 8th team. But I have 3 shares already of Scooble.
Okay.
Um, and I can't remember, did I draft him in this draft I'm currently doing? I should probably know that off the top of my head. But
Yeah, it's hard to keep
honestly,
up with all of them.
it's been such a literal slow draft that
You can't keep
I
up.
oh no, that's right. I started Cole Burns in this one. So
Okay. Oh yeah.
um
Oh yeah. I remember that one. You're still doing that. Well, I guess that it's not surprising that you're still doing that draft, but if you're not very far along, it is
I
kind of
choose the
surprising.
4 hour clocks because the clock starts at 5 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast.
On the West Coast side, yeah.
And for those of you who don't play Draft Champions, halfway through or a little over halfway through the draft in round 31, they shorten the clock. They cut it in half. So
And you don't want to get
uh,
burned sleeping.
yeah, like I can't do a 2 hour clock that shortens to a 1 hour clock that starts at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I don't want to get burned. So I do the
Yeah,
4 hour ones, but it takes forever.
that's just
Um,
prudent. Okay, so you love Scooble.
I
Again,
love Scooble.
I love Scooble too. 50's dicey and pricey, but I think I can take the plunge. I really do. I would like him to be my 2, but I think even if he is my 1, then I just take another 2 starters pretty quickly personally. So talk to
Yeah,
us about where you've drafted him, what your outlook is. Are we getting a full season here? Are you projecting him for 180, 160? Where are you at on the innings? Have you done his projection yet, Scooble?
I haven't done his projection yet, but I think I'm going to be right in the middle of that, about 150.
Okay.
And I think it's going to come with a crap ton of strikeouts. Again, another guy who doesn't walk guys and give up home runs. The control has been really, really impressive. He's gotten better every season that he's pitched with
Yep.
that control. The control was like the big issue for him coming up to the minor leagues.
And then it became command because then he had the
Yeah.
good walk rates,
Mhm.
but then the home runs were sky high. 2.1, 2.5 his first 2 seasons for Scooble, but now he's really improved that point
And
0.7 and 0.5 the last 2 years.
And last year was his first year off of TJ. And usually your first year off of TJ, what do you struggle with? Command and control.
Control,
What
yeah.
was immaculate for him was command and control
Both.
last year. And there's reports he's already throwing 100.
I know. I know.
He's gonna jump up. I'll be okay with it. Will I get him in like a lot of my big money drafts? Probably not. I think the price is just gonna go through the
It's
roof.
going to
I
go up.
think, yeah, I'm really kind of glad that he's kind of stuck behind Glass now and Yamamoto, because I'm hoping that he stays behind those guys and maybe all 3 of them rise
All
up.
3 rise together, yeah.
Um, but what'll end up probably happening is I'll just get more Pablo Lopez and Zach Gallen if they're the ones who drop down. So
I'm okay
um,
with that too.
yeah, I am too. So, but ultimately, yeah, I have no problem taking Tariq Skubal, kind of where he's going. But again, like you said, I want to pair him with an innings guy, right? I want to pair him with Garrett Cole. I want to pair him with Logan Webb. I want to pair him with Framber Valdez. I want to pair him with a guy that I feel like can like be a workhorse.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. And like I said, even if he's my 1, then I'm probably taking another couple of starters pretty quickly to really set my foundation there. But I love the idea of going Cole and then
Like
getting
I
Scooble.
I just took Skubal in the Barf draft, and
Hmm.
I want to just bring up my team real quick. And so I had started. I actually don't feel real great about this pitching build, but I started 3 straight hitters. I went Carroll, Riley, Guerrero, and then I took Tariq Skubal in the 4th round, Zach Eflin in the 6th, Sonny Gray in the 8th.
Okay.
I don't feel super great about that. I kind of wish, instead of taking a guy like trying to see where'd Webb go in this one? No, Webb went before Skubal, so I couldn't have taken him. Yeah, maybe Framber was the guy I should have taken.
And you've been a
So
big Framber guy in the past.
Framber went right in the pick right after mine. So I don't know. But yeah, I definitely don't want to build that way in the future. If I'm going to take
Yeah.
Skubal, I want to take guys who don't have very many health concerns.
If you got your
Sonny
boy
Gray
Luis
do.
Castillo,
Yeah.
already getting him with Scooble makes some sense. Let's talk about the other 2 here in this category. They are the more established of these 5. Freddie Peralta and Blake Snell, especially with the seasons they're coming off of. It might feel a little unfair to put them in here, But we don't just go off of last year because we're not just getting
Yeah.
carbon copies of the year before. So while Freddie Peralta is coming off a career high 166 innings, and he was awesome, especially down the stretch, 30 starts for the first time, 31% K rate, which is amazing. We love it, but it was 78 innings the year before, 144 the year before that, and then big injury issues in 18 and 19 as well. And then, of course, Snell coming off the 180 and the Cy Young, but 128 innings the 2 years before that. So when you look at these two, obviously with Snell, we don't have to get too deep because we know we're going to revisit him when he gets signed somewhere. But with these two, Peralta and Snell, do you find yourself landing on them at all at 55 for Peralta and 67 for Snell? Or do they carry too much risk? And again, I know Snell's risk could be totally where he lands versus Peralta's being more about him. So let's focus on Peralta here first. Are you taking him at pick 55? Can he repeat? Can he add more innings? That's a lot of questions, but where are you at on Peralta?
I feel like the Brewers need him to add more innings, losing Corbin
Right?
Burns and Woodruff. But I just don't believe it. Like that frame just doesn't seem like a frame that can pile up the innings,
Yeah.
especially with those mechanics. So no, Peralta is just not a guy I end up with. Snell's not a guy I end up with either. I think there are guys going after them that I feel way better about. And guys going ahead of them that I feel way better about that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, but they would have to drop considerably, for me. And even like Snell, like there's been a lot of talk that my Giants are one of the teams that could end up with Snell. And while I would hate that as a Giants fan, as a fantasy fan, I think his price would go through the freaking roof.
I was going to say that's the problem.
Worry about it.
His price is going to go.
It's not a problem for me because I don't want anything to do with
him. Yeah. But if you do like Snell, you should be getting him now because I think whether he goes to the Yankees, which isn't the best place to pitch, but it's the Yankees, or the Giants, which is a great place to pitch, that price is going up no matter what. Right now, his price is lower because of the uncertainty.
Better for a lefty, so
true.
Because it's harder to hit off of him into that
hit lefty
into the short porch. Yeah. So, I mean, I want him to sign because I want his price to go up because my hope is like that he starts jumping a couple of these guys we're going to talk about in future tiers that are still above him in the Aaron Nolas and Logan Webbs and the Framber Valdez's. Much rather have all those guys.
I think he'll at least get to Freddie's price point at 55. I think Snell will at least get there. Let's talk about the trio of ascending aces here. These three youngsters are often kind of paired together that, once one goes, the other two are going to go quickly, regardless of what the order is. But right now, the ADP order is Grayson Rodriguez at 67, Bobby Miller 74, and Yuri Perez 79. My favorite's definitely Miller of the trio, but let's just take them in order. Grayson Rodriguez now doesn't have to be the ace. Especially with the Bradish injury, right? Because that was going to be like, oh, well, now he has to wear everything on his shoulders. But Burns was already there when the injury happened. They probably knew about it sooner. But Grayson can just be the number two. And I don't know how much pressure there is with that anyway. It's all speculation. Unless a player comes out and says, oh, it really weighed on me, and so that was hard. We don't know. But he had the amazing return from his send down when he was demoted after the rough May, looking like the guy that we think he can be. Does he do a full season of that this year? Is Grayson ready to arrive? Are you taking him in that top 70 zone?
Yeah, I'm totally taking it. I'm taking all three of these guys. Spoiler alert. I love all three of these guys. And I think the ADP has the order right. Like, I love Bobby Miller, but I think Grayson Rodriguez's upside is like best pitcher in baseball. And you have that.
I think Bobby Miller's is too, though.
I don't know if he's quite that high, but I think it's pretty close. So I love all three of these guys. I have no problem putting them on my team. I really want them as my number 3 starting pitcher. But if I settle for them as my number 2 starting pitcher, I'm not going to be upset. I got sniped by Saris, our good buddy, who we'll be talking to at Potapalooza on Saturday. On Sunday, I think, for that one.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very, very angry at him. But he also had Tyler Glass now, so I felt like he needed at least another ace to kind of join.
You give him some pity there. Oh, we know you need this more than I do. So again, I can't really go wrong with any of the three here. I will take any of them. I'll take multiples. I would take 2 of the 3. It's not something I've done yet, but I could see myself doing it, especially on a turn if I don't have any pitching yet. It'd be risky.
especially in an auction. Like I think I like in an
Oh yeah.
auction, yeah, like I think I go, oh, I'm not gonna get an ace, and I'm just gonna save all my money, and instead of getting one ace and one of these guys, I'm gonna get two of these guys, and have still have money left over, maybe three of these guys. Um, I think the difference between Bobby Miller, who we're obviously going to talk about next, and Grayson Rodriguez is, I mean, they're both on good teams, but Grayson
Hmm.
Rodriguez has got a better park, and less question marks about how they're going to use the pitchers in Baltimore. Like, there's this weird potential 6-day rotation in Los Angeles.
They got
Do
to get
the
innings from somebody though.
they do
I
but the
think
Dodgers
Miller.
have the Dodgers are like a team that like they somehow figure out a way for all their guys to throw 130 to 140 innings and still end up like with amazing output from random. Like Pepio was not a guy we were talking about a few
No,
years ago that like
Sheehan could be that
random
guy
like
this year.
yeah like she like
Paxton.
there could be a random dude in the minor leagues that comes up and like throws like a good 110 innings to kind of offset every guy missing 40
Kyle
or
Hurt.
50 innings. Yeah, kind of
River
like
Ryan. Michael Grove and
so.
Gavin Stone just pitched in this game. Grove's pitching right
Yeah.
now. Either of them, I think, could pop up. Don't get off of
And
Stone
so
last year just because of last year's MLB flop. I still love Gavin Stone.
what I will say, and I think the argument for Bobby Miller over both of these guys is I think Bobby Miller has the safest floor. Um, and I mean, obviously anybody can get hurt, but I just think he's got such a really good body. I think the command and control are really good. I think the upside is there to be a top tier pitcher in fantasy, but the Dodgers games, which they have always played,
Hmm.
will just kind of drops him to 2 for me out of these 3.
That's okay. I'm not going to dispute too hard on that, even though I've got Miller higher because I've got Grayson right there. And again, I
Yeah.
just really love this trio here. And then you got Yuri Perez, who actually I do have a little bit deeper in the rankings. I think I'm going to change that because as I've been kind of going through the season, off season a bit more, I find myself gravitating back toward him. He's so young, but like we've talked about before with Miami, they don't dilly dally around with that. If guys up and have the bullets, they're gonna go with it. Now they were a little cautious with him last year, but they still got 91 innings out of a 21-year-old
Yeah.
in the major leagues, plus another 37 in the
36. Yeah.
minors. So I think he can jump this year into the 150 plus range, and the skills are just impeccable. 29% K rate, 16% swinging strike rate. Are you kidding me? That park gives him some cushion in case he has a little bit of struggle. He had the 1.5 homer 9, but you barely felt it with the 3.15 ERA. What did we see from Yuri Perez in an encore here?
I think if you told me I needed to pick this tier based on who has the best upside, I'm taking Yuri Perez. I
Okay.
think Yuri Perez's stuff is just unreal, especially when he's on. But if you told me I had to rank them based on their downside, I think you got to put him last. I
Yeah.
mean, so,
Yeah.
uh, and I think that's the reason why I have him last in this tier is because I am a little bit more concerned at this point in the draft about a guy's floor than I am about his ceiling. So because I think all these, I mean, you're not taking a starting pitcher in the top 75 picks if you don't think he's a very good pitcher, like right.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
um, I care more about what I think the potential floor is. That is like while that like tall, lanky body is really good for movement, it also just scares the crap out of you in terms of being able to hold up for 190 innings or 170.
Good
I think
class
I'm
now.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'm probably going to project 140 innings, but 140
Okay.
really good innings. And I think Miami is better than people give it credit for. So, yeah, I like Yuri Perez just fine. I've drafted him a number of times already. I've drafted all 3 of these guys. I'll continue to.
Yeah, just a great group here. I really don't think you can go wrong. I go Miller, Grayson, Perez, with Perez a little bit further back. Like I said, there's a chance for him to move up in my next rankings update, which is going to be coming soon with a bunch of updates because of all the injuries and just some extra profiles written. Let's talk workhorses here. Now, these are the 5 guys that you're going to want to pair maybe with one of the 3 we just talked about,
Mhm.
or one of the guys from the risky aces that we were talking about earlier to try to get your innings. Again, nothing's guaranteed. Everyone is an injury risk because you're one pitch away.
Yeah.
But Aaron Nola, 52, Logan Webb, 56, Framber Valdez, 58. So the market's got all three of them really close. Then Max Fried, I know it feels weird to include him here, but he had 2 full seasons prior to 2023. So I still think he's a guy you look at as a volume guy when he's healthy. And then Logan Gilbert at 63. So it's only an 11 pick range with these 5 here. The market sees these 5 guys as innings bastions and says, okay, this is where we can get some innings. I think Nola is down at 52 because of his ERA last year. He's done this before, but he always rebounds from it. Do you have any pause coming off of the 4+ ERA last year? Or do you look at it like we saw in 2021 when he had a 463 and then bounced back with a 325? Do you think he bounces back again when you're looking at the ERA indicators and everything and believing that he can get back on track? Where do you stand with Aaron Nola?
Yeah, he got him lucky in the strand rate, got him lucky in the home run to fly ball rate, I think a little bit. I think he's going to be fine. Like, I just think he probably deserves to be going exactly where he's going, maybe even a little bit higher. I just think Aaron Nola has all the stuff you want from an ace. The stuff looked fine last year. He just got a little bit unlucky, I think, and that cost him. So, yeah, I've drafted Aaron Nola. Got no problem continuing to do it.
Excluding 2020, it's 6 straight full seasons. So full season meaning
Yeah.
162 innings, which is what you need to qualify for the ERA title. So when you hear me say full season, that is the threshold. 6 straight. The dude
Yeah.
pitches, man. He is as workhorse as it gets, up there with his teammate. And then these next 2 here, Logan Webb and Framber Valdez, I love these 2. And the volume
Yeah.
is something that, again, as much as I will acknowledge that we can't guarantee anything, I want to try to attack volume. I've actually got both these guys in my top 10, Webb and Valdez. I really, really
I have no
like
problem
them
with that.
because you mentioned this. I forget who it was with. I think Kirby, that while the volume or while the strikeout rates might not be super high, the volume makes up for it because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, unless you play in a K9 league, you just care about the total Ks.
Yep.
And both these guys leverage their innings to make up for their lack of Ks. Now, Valdez, I feel like at least in the market with some pods I've been listening to, some stuff I've been reading, he's getting a little bit of hate relative to to Webb. But when you look at the ADP, they're right next to each other. Do you agree that they're like a righty lefty version of each other, or do you have some of that heat that I've been seeing Valdez get due to the way he finished last year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't get it. Like, Valdez just, like, all he does is produce. Like, I get he had a little bit of a rough finish, but, like, wasn't he fine in the postseason? Like, I'm double checking that right now.
Yeah, I can see because I don't remember.
12
yeah.
innings of a 9 ERA. So,
Okay.
I mean,
It was
but
the
that's
bad
one
start
bad
against.
outing. Yeah.
Actually, no, they were both bad. 5 against
Mhm.
Houston. I mean, against Minnesota, and then Texas roughed him up for a couple. So he didn't have a great. He didn't have a great postseason, but I'm just not gonna freak out over that. This dude
I'm not
is
either.
rock solid as it gets. Sign me up for another, 180 plus innings, and that would be low relative to what he's done the last 2 years at 201 and 198. I love what he does. He's on a great team. Like I said, once one of Webb or Fromber goes, it's my indication to take the other.
Yep, I agree.
All right, so I love both and then with Webb, again, right-handed version of Valdez, pitches in a great park. You know, wins, you never really know because the Giants aren't expected to be great, but with his volume, he should win a lot of the games that he pitches as long as
Yeah.
he gets a little bit of offensive support. So let's talk about the 2 that maybe aren't as obvious a fits in this workhorse category, with Max Fried being because of the fact that he missed a bunch of time last year. But like I said, 2 full seasons prior to that. Is Max Fried somebody that you look at and think, oh, I can get volume out of him? Or are you concerned based on the health from last year where he was limited to 78 innings?
Yeah, what's the song? One of these things is not
It's
like
not
the
like
other.
the other.
Yeah.
Do you think Fried doesn't fit
Yeah,
here?
he doesn't fit. I mean, I don't trust the workload. Like, I just like he
185 and 166 the 2 years before that. And then if you scratch out 2020, it's 166 in 2019. I think.
I know, but I don't want to scratch out last year. That's our most recent sample.
No. If you scratch out 2020, not scratch out last year, that counts. But he was also amazing when he pitched. So, okay, maybe you critique him a little bit for the workload aspect, the tier I put Fried in. But even if you get 130,
So
isn't
but when you
that
get
fine?
100, when you get 130, how many strikeouts you're getting? Because, like, I don't think he's a strikeout inning guy.
It was 26%
Normally,
last year.
last year he was, but, like, he may have been just dialing it up a little bit,
Sure.
when he came back. So I just if a guy has an injury concern, like I just don't. I'm not messing
But
with
how
it. Like,
valid is the concern when he finished on the field and pitching well?
it probably
Um,
shouldn't be as big in my mind as it is,
okay, because
but
yeah, I was
it
gonna say for
is.
me
And like
it's not, and we always highlight when guys finish on the field how comfortable that makes us.
I'm just
So
always gonna take Logan Webb. I'm always gonna take Framber Valdez. I'm always gonna take Logan Gilbert just because I feel much more confident that they're going to get those 180, 190 innings.
so here's the thing then. What if they're all gone? Because what's interesting is after, and
Then
we'll
I
talk
just
Gilbert
wait.
here. Okay, because I was going to say that the next group is almost a whole round away.
Yeah.
That we start with the strong twos with a concern.
I mean,
All right,
and I don't know why we did in the order that we did because all these guys are going above the guys we just talked about.
I
Um,
I don't know either. Whoever made this
um,
list is probably a fucking
yeah,
moron.
but I'm
It
taking
was
Grayson
me.
Rodriguez. I'm taking Bobby Miller. I'm taking
Yeah,
Yepres
honestly, I don't
all
know why.
over.
Oh, you know
Yeah,
why I did it was because I almost put them in the risky aces, and I wanted to break them off into their own category, so I just put them right after the risky aces, and then I
yeah,
circled back to the workhorses. So I did have a reason behind it, but it does make
yeah.
it look there's a bigger gap between Gilbert and Eflin when actually that's exactly where Grayson, Miller, and Yuri fit.
Plus
So that's
Sal
fair.
Perez, or sorry, Sal Perez.
Sal Perez.
Plus Blake Snell. I don't know
Yeah,
why I said Sal
Snell
Perez
fits
right
there
there.
too. Very interesting name to mess up when
Yeah,
you're meaning to say Blake Snell. So Gilbert, 63. Does he fit in here with the workhorses?
I think he does.
I
Doesn't he?
mean, I put him there, so I think so. I'm asking if
Yeah,
you
I,
agree
I
with
I think
that.
he does. And I mean, I like Logan Gilbert quite a bit.
How?
He was the guy I liked more last year over George Kirby when they were going to
Me too.
the same spot. I understand that George Kirby had a little bit better year, but like the everybody talks about the strikeout upside with George Kirby. I think Logan Gilbert's got some strikeout upside that maybe we don't give him credit for. And I just love the fantastic control. And I think he
And
commands
did
better
Kirby
than he
have
showed last year.
a 30 pick better, a 2 round in 15 teamer better season? And again, I'm not
I don't
hating on
think he did.
Kirby, but I feel like why not just take Gilbert?
Yeah. I mean, 190 innings last year. Like, yeah, I love it. I love kind of the discount version of George Kirby you get from Logan Gilbert, and I
Exactly.
have no
And
problem taking him.
again, I love Kirby. We just talked him up. I'm not hating. I would
No,
take both. Would you take two of the three Mariners? Because you love
I would
Castillo
take
too.
all three.
So would I. There is a
Like
world where if it
I
broke three,
have.
I would.
I mean, I don't think there's a world in which it's going to happen because I think both are going to move up so far
Well, you'd have
that
to get
or
Castillo,
you'd have
Kirby
to have like
on
a
like the
Kun.
wheel.
Yeah, but I think both of them are going to be inside the second round by the time we get to draft them,
True.
like
They'd
towards
have
the
to
end.
fall to you at the 2-3 turn, and you picked one. So if you went
Yeah, so you would
Acuna,
Acuna,
Castillo, Kirby,
Kirby. I would do that.
that'd be amazing. Yeah, I
I
would
would do
absolutely
that.
do that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love Gilbert. He is really just generic brand Kirby, and I don't say that to degrade him. It's just because he's 2 rounds cheaper and does everything else that Kirby does. All right, so
Yeah.
let's get to these strong number twos with a concern. They've each got a glaring concern that kind of keeps them from being in one of these other tiers ahead of them. Zach Eflin at 81, just lack of a track record, right? Last year was the
Yep.
first year that we really saw it. Joe Ryan's got the homers, pick 86. Joe Musgrove, he has last year's injury, but we did just see him open spring training. It wasn't a great outing, but who really gives a shit? He pitched. He's healthy right now, but that's probably the concern that people carry with him and why he's down at 97. Justin Steele, 102, lack of a track record, just like Eflin. And then Dylan Cease at 107. His sharp drop in 2023 is why he has the concern, but the strikeouts are still massive, and there's still a lot to like with him. These strong number twos with a concern. Do you have a favorite of the five?
It's probably Eflin, but I think Justin Steele is kind of in that conversation as well, just because he is so much cheaper.
Well, let's
But
start with
those
Eflin
are the
then.
two guys that I've been targeting as my like SP2 or SP3 in a lot of leagues.
Is Eflin then, in your estimation, if you're buying in on him, doesn't he feel like a little bit of a bargain at 81?
He
Um,
does,
can't he
but
just
I also know that there is like, and I don't think it gets talked about enough. Like Eflin struggled with injuries his entire career before getting to Tampa,
true? And that was kind
and
of what held
so
him back in Philly. I understand that. Um, but again, if we then circle back to everyone's an injury risk type of deal or
yeah,
whatever, and you're getting him at 81, it's kind of built into that conversation there.
Hmm.
I like him to basically repeat. I don't think he did
I do
anything
too.
last year that F1 can't do again this year. I
Yep,
love him at this price point. And it seems like you
I
co-sign
do
that.
too. Yeah,
All
I
right, so
absolutely
we're
do.
in
Like,
on that.
I think I said at First Pitch Arizona that Zach Eflin's a top 15 starter, and
Bang. I can totally
I
get
don't think
behind that.
anything has changed for me.
Yeah, I have no issue with that take whatsoever. Let's see where I ranked him to see how much I'm putting my money where my mouth is. So I'm a little shy of that at 20. But part of that is just that there's so many guys. It's like, it sounds weird to say.
Difference between 12 and 20. I don't think is as big as you think.
Exactly. Because this year it's so deep that I can have like 6 guys that I could realistically say are top 15 that aren't even in the top 15 because you got to rank them somewhere.
Yep.
Because you could have 25 guys that, could fit that top 20 type of threshold, top 15, whatever it is. Joe Ryan was on my bust list, and it's a bummer because I love Joe Ryan, and
Yeah, you've been a Joe Ryan dude.
I was an early adopter for sure. I had a bet with Alex Fast about his ERA for charity that I won, which was nice. But the home runs scare me, Justin. They've
Yeah.
always
Did
been
you hear
there.
that?
No, what was it?
It was Joe Ryan giving up another home run.
I thought it was like weather or something because I know you've been getting some bad rain. I was like, was it thunder?
I did do a podcast Monday night where my power went out halfway through. With me
Jeez,
and
I know you
Dave
guys been
McDonald.
getting hammered.
Like we were 40 minutes into the podcast, and my power.
How's the moat?
There is still a moat, but it is no longer raining. We're past the rain.
Oh, are you one of the millions of people without cell service today?
No, I have cell service and I have AT&T, so apparently did
So
not.
you're one of that
affect,
group. Jen, as far as I know, still doesn't have her cell back. But yeah, very,
oh,
very weird stuff there. Okay, so let's talk Joe Ryan, though. The home runs are a problem. They always have been. They really crept up last year, though, at 1.8. And the problem is, as I think this is always lurking. And if this high fastball, this kind, I don't want to say gimmick because it makes it sound like, he's doing something cheap or whatever. But if his kind of, style doesn't work, which is to get great extension on that fastball at the top of the zone. If that stops working and these home runs, let's even give him a drop down to 1.5. That's still pretty high, Justin. That's his career mark now with last year's 1.8. And for me, I'm just going to take Bailey Ober. And you
yeah.
want to talk about the Logan Gilbert, George Kirby thing? Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober is the same thing, except I don't want the name brand. I'll take the name brand Mariner and the generic, but I don't want the name brand Twin right now when Joe Ryan's coming in at pick 86 and Bailey Ober's coming in much cheaper. It is entirely the home runs, but that is the quickest way to tank your ERA. I've been saying it for years. I will continue to say it. I love the 29% K rate. I love the 5% walk rate. Pitched 162 innings last year, but the home runs yielded a 4.51 ERA, and I have a hard time projecting him under 4. So even if I slice that half run off, I'm still at a 4 ERA with a great whip, and I'm not taking Joe Ryan.
It's so crazy because it's really against righties. That's a problem. Like, but he was worse in the second half. The second his second half 2.63 homers per 9.
Yeah, it got horrendous, and it won't be that bad. But again, even if you shave it down to 1.415, that's still really high.
Yeah, I just don't want to mess with it. There's too many other guys around this area that I feel safer, and I would like I'm not even guys in this tier. Like I'm talking about Tanner Bybee, at 107, 20 picks later. Cole Reagan's I think I'd rather have those guys.
Those are super sophomores we're going to talk about next. And then, like I said, Bailey Ober does all the same stuff on the same team, and he's markedly cheaper. Why wouldn't you just take Ober?
Yeah, give me Sonny Gray.
What about like Chris Bassett? I feel like I would rather take
Jordan
him
Montgomery.
at 137. Jorman doesn't even have a team. I'd rather take him. I can't get on Joe Ryan as a top 100 pick, and I hate jumping off a guy that I loved, but you got to do it sometimes. You can't just stay committed to somebody because you loved him in the past. When the price point changes, you got to move with it.
Because you say even just regress it back, but what if it doesn't regress back?
Exactly.
What if you would just eat 160 innings at a 4.50 ERA?
I don't love that. And like I said, shave it down to 1.4. Take 0.4 home runs off. Do you know where that would rank, Justin? That'd be the 10th worst home run rate last year.
Yeah.
So like it's still
Even if
really
you look at like
dangerous.
even if you look at his xFIP, which normalizes home runs,
Hmm.
so it's part of what xFIP does. He's still at a 3.76 ERA, so it's not like he's an elite guy with a like a league average home run rate.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And so that,
no,
like, I love the whip, and we've talked about this concept in past years. Be careful underrating a guy that has a elevated ERA with a great whip. They usually come a lot cheaper though. They're not usually
yeah,
top 100 picks. That's usually the benefit of them. This was
yeah,
early career. Joe Musgrove was like this. Jameson Taillon at his best was like this, but they weren't top 100 picks. And so that's the issue for me with Joe Ryan. I'd love to be wrong just because I want to see him do well, but there's just way too many guys I
yeah,
prefer, including the
I
rest of
agree.
this group and then our next group. Joe Musgrove, where are you at on his concern? Like I said, just started the spring game. If he's looking good to go throughout spring, are you in on him at pick 97?
I haven't been because I wanted to see him throw in spring. I only got drafted him at all, and I haven't really considered him. Uh, I I don't know that I will jump on board.
Even with a
Even
healthy
with
spring?
I don't know, maybe you're gonna have to ask me again as we get closer to
Okay.
like mid March. But it's a moment I don't know that I want to take him over Steele or Reagan's or Bybee. I just don't. I think he just kind of drops down my board too far.
Yeah, he's another guy that I've loved. And
Mhm.
again, price
He
point has
might do the
taken me
last
out.
few years. Yeah,
Yep.
I
So
agree.
I join you there where I'm just not really winding up with Musgrove anywhere, and I let him kind of sit on my board. Where normally I would have been like, oh my God, I can get Joe Musgrove here, jump on it. But I just haven't been doing that. And I don't see myself doing it very much either. So I will re ask it down the line and we'll see if either of us have changed on it. But right now we're kind of bypassing him. And you mentioned for Justin Steele. So you're bought in on what he did last year. He had an excellent breakout season. You know, basically a two pitch guy, right? Fastball,
Yeah.
slider, but he made it work and work very well. Sliced the walk rate in half down to 5% with a 25% K rate, home run rate under one at 0.73. Very nice. 0.61 the year before that. 306 ERA, 117 whip. You got him basically doing a carbon copy there. Where you at on Steele's numbers?
Yeah, I do have him kind of just being a carbon copy. And 170, 175, maybe 180, something like that, of kind of what he's done. The two pitch thing does bother me a little bit because there
Mm-hmm.
are other guys that I have been fans of that are two pitch guys that have then just blown up right in my face. And this is a high price. And so I've been a little bit more tepid on drafting him kind of where he's going, especially because I do love Tanner Bybee so much. I've just been kind of pivoting that way. But there are drafts where Justin Steele falls. And if I can get him as my number three, I'm feeling pretty darn good about that because I don't have to quite rely on him quite as much as I would if he was my number two.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it with these guys. And even somebody like a Musgrove, if I get back in and I am making him a number three, it's going to be a lot easier to rely on him and take on that
Yeah.
risk when you don't have to put so much on their volume. Dylan Cease, we're still expecting a trade at some point, maybe even as spring goes on here, some big injury somewhere. And a team says, okay, now's the time we pull the trigger. I don't know, might be in season. He had the sharp drop off last year. The easy thing to do is to just take 22 and 23 and split them and say that's who he is. I understand that that's a bit lazy, but that's kind of how I feel about him, at least as far as a projection goes. And I know that a repeat of 23 is in the cards, but also a return to 22 could happen. And for those that
Yeah.
are wondering, the split of that would be 337 ERA, 126 whip with 220 strikeouts in 180 innings. That is taking the 2 years and just averaging them. So does that put you in or out on him? First off, do you agree with taking the middle? And then also, are you in or out?
I mean, I think you have to take the middle because I think you just have to account for both. Right. And so, like, when you're doing a projection, you're doing a median outcome. And I think that makes a lot of sense to just be like, okay, I think 370 is probably right in the middle of where his true outcomes are. I think the shallower the league, the more likely I am to pull the trigger because there
Yeah.
is replacement on the waiver wire if he is just atrocious again. And you're going to get strikeouts. I mean, he's gotten over 200 strikeouts, over 210 strikeouts in each of the last 3 seasons. I don't play in a lot of shallower leagues, so I'm not personally probably going to have Dylan Cease on any teams this year, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And honestly, you could even throw in 2021, which was
Yeah,
166 innings of a 391, 125. if you want to get a firmer average of what's that, the Marcel the Monkey
Yeah.
projection system of just taking a 3-year average, that's 354, 126 would be the average of those. And so again, 2023 is in the cards again, so you need to be able to absorb that. And that's why Justin's saying that if you're in a shower league, it's a lot easier to absorb that. I think I'm still open to him in a 15 teamer because he's usually available to make your fourth, fifth starter, depending on when you're drafting or how you're drafting starters. If he's got to be my number 2 or 3, that's where I get a little trepidation.
Yeah.
But if I'm going pitcher heavy and I can make Cease my 4, I'm open to it.
Or if
And
you're
then
in
if
a
he
10 or 12 team league, like, and you know,
if he
that-
gets traded, we assume it'll be to a contender. I know you can't fully answer without knowing who it is, but would that change your interest at all?
I mean, unless he got traded to Cincinnati, like pretty much anywhere he goes is going to be a better situation,
Yeah,
right?
and
like,
win probability.
And
so would that
win
change
probability
it?
goes up. I don't know. Honestly,
Okay.
I really need to know where he goes. Like if he got traded to Baltimore, yeah, that would change it. Like all of a sudden,
Like I know they already got Burns, but with the Bradish injury, why not just go right back to the well?
Yeah, I mean they were talking about Luzardo, so why wouldn't
Exactly.
they talk about Cease? Yeah, I mean if he went there, but like if he, I'm trying to think of another spot he could like reasonably
What if he went to the
end
Yankees? And what if they didn't get Snell? What if he went to the Yankees?
I don't want him in New York.
Okay.
Not with that short porch.
What if he
went to San Francisco?
Well, I mean, any pitcher
Like,
that goes to San Francisco, I'm pretty.
Yeah,
I'd be so interested in him. But okay, but then now he's gonna be like pick 80, I think, at that point for Cease. Would you then pay the premium if he went to San Francisco?
No, I definitely wouldn't pay the premium.
Okay.
Because that means missing out on the Bobby Millers.
Exactly.
I'm not playing. I'm not paying any premium on Dylan Cease. Honestly, the only way Dylan Cease ends up on my teams is if he drops in a draft.
He literally just went in my Tout Wars draft here at 515. That's pick 75.
Yeah, too high for me.
Are
any of Bobby Miller, Grayson Rodriguez?
So no, while we've been potting, it went Miller, Bregman as a hitter, but then Eflin, Perez, O'Neill Cruz as another hitter. Now Dylan Cease, and I'm waiting for Dan Strafford's second pick. I took Yuri Perez, by the way, and I made him my number 3 behind Cole and Webb. And I have Devin Williams. I've been going pitching heavy here.
That is a hot start, though.
I only have Semien at hitting. I'm obviously about to take like 5 straight hitters, but my pitching is disgusting. It's not safe for work. All right, we've only got about 10 minutes left, so let's get these 2 super sophomores here, and then we'll do the Kodai Senga news. Tanner Bybee, 107, same ADP as Cease, and Cole Reagan's 109. We've talked a lot about them. They are very popular super sophomores. I almost put them with the Rodriguez, Miller, and Perez, but those 3 are on a different plane with everyone, not just in their ADP, but just the excitement around them. So these guys are kind of your bargain basement, of a great potential ace here. I think Bybee is a little bit underrated. I know 107 is still a pretty good ADP, but he's not getting as much chatter as Reagan's. Between the two, it's definitely more Reagan's than Bybee.
Yeah.
We love Cleveland's pitching development, right? We saw the 3 guys come up last year and all contribute. Gavin Williams, Logan Allen, and Bybee, all to different degrees, mind you. Allen was a little bit the worst of the 3, but still pretty good. And then Williams was nice and Bybee was awesome. What does Bybee do for an encore? 298 ERA, 118 WHIP last year. Does he get better? Not necessarily better ERA, but does he add more volume to the 142? What are you seeing in the second year from Bybee?
Bybee is George Kirby.
Oh, so that's another Kirkland brand George Kirby here. With Gilbert and Bybee.
Diet George Kirby, because I don't think you want to project 190 innings.
So then why are you taking Kirby if you got 2 guys now that you really...
I'm probably not taking both of them together, but more often than not, I'm ending up with someone other than Kirby, and then I'm taking...
So then if you miss on Kirby...
Bybee will almost undoubtedly turn into my most drafted pitcher inside of the top 300 or inside of the top 200. Like, I mean, I'm going to have so much Bybee this year. I've already got him. Well, I've only got him in 3 leagues. But he will be.
Some people haven't even drafted 1 league yet. I only got him in 3 leagues.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm in 8 so far. So
true.
But yeah, Bybie's my dude this year. I just love what he does. Does not give up hard contact. He doesn't give up runs. He doesn't give up walks. He just does everything right. He threw 142 innings in his rookie season, plus 15 in the minor leagues. So like that's 157, like 170 innings of mid to low threes ERA with a whip around 115, 117, something like that. Yeah, sign me up. I'm here.
Okay, so you're okay with the hip and everything?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay, because you were pretty cautious on Freed, and the hip ended ended Bybee's season early, so I'm just making sure that you're still
Yeah, but it
good
was
to
the
go
last
with
week of
him.
the season. I'm not like,
Yeah,
unless
it's
he
not the
comes
biggest issue.
in.
It's not a
Like
gotcha, by the way. I'm not trying to like
yeah,
expose you on that.
no, I think this is like one of those things where it's all like, they were just looking for a reason to shut him down. Like I don't think it was
That's
like
true.
they were out of the playoffs. They were like, like
They
I
needed the
those,
spot for McKenzie.
yeah, so I'm not worried about that at all. I mean, if he
Okay.
comes in and there's a problem with it, then yeah, then all of a sudden I'm doing a 180. But
Yeah, but we
like
haven't heard
I haven't
anything.
heard anything in the
No.
offseason other than he's just having a normal offseason.
Yeah, no negativity there with Bybee. Reagan's has been like the hot fantasy player of the off season. Our
But
buddy
he
Nick
hasn't
Pollock.
gone up in price. Like
I
he
know,
like
which I love. I do worry that he will,
Scooble
as
Scooble
went
went through the
crazy.
roof,
And
and
Reagan sits here at 109.
Reagan's has like 2 bad starts at the end of the season, and everybody's like, nah, that's old
You know what's
news.
sticking in their head is the Toronto
Not
thing when
one
he
start,
fell
yeah.
off the mound and like had those 3 wild pitches in a row or whatever. I couldn't care less about that if I tried.
Yeah.
Like I seriously have zero concerns about that. Pick 109. We're clearly in. Like I said, our boy Nick Pollock's been pumping him up. Had him on PitchCon, which was awesome. Seems like a good dude. I love the way he kind of thinks about the game too. I'm fully in on this. Do you have any real reservations about Reagan's other than normal pitching reservations?
I mean, I think there's a little added injury risk. Just because he has had so many injuries kind of in the minors and stuff.
Said
And
two T. Well, it's kind of a TJ and a half because the other I think was that
yeah.
internal brace thing, which is a bit different. So maybe it shouldn't be counted as a
And he,
full TJ. But either way, 2 big surgeries.
and he only threw like 100 innings between the minors and the majors last year. So I think like
Correct.
all the projections on the innings, I think, are a little bit lofty. Like I don't think I would project him for 160 like the bat and ETC and
Really?
depth
Well,
charts is.
but he's 26. What are we babying him for?
I don't know that it's babying it, but it's just, guy with his injury track record coming off of only 100 innings. Like I think that that's a lot to kind of say. He absolutely could, but I think I'm going to project closer to like, I don't know, 150, 145, something like that.
Just want to be a little more prudent with it.
Yeah, but I think the upside is through the roof, and I think we saw bits and pieces of it last year. I mean, dude throws 100. Well, does he throw 100 or felt like he threw 100?
He's 97 on average.
Yeah,
he's probably
okay,
touched
90s. Yeah, 90s from
Reagan's.
the left-hand side in a fantastic park on a team that I had said is a dark horse to win the AL Central.
Sneaky club.
I'm honestly shocked that his ADP isn't higher than this. Like, I think this is a great price.
I'm glad it's not, but yes, I am too.
This is the guy. Like, I don't want to pair Bybee with Kirby because you got 2 guys with kind of lower strikeout rates. This is the guy to pair with.
Yes,
to Kirby.
This is where you can get your Dylan Cease-esque strikeouts.
Yeah.
At that same price point with maybe a bit less risk in the whip there. Jake Cronenworth just hit a homer. Did he do that?
I didn't think he was allowed to do that. Yeah.
We both went for the same joke there. Yeah, I love Reagan's. Price probably will rise in the spring. Like you said, pitchers are going to go up. He'll be one that goes up. But I don't think he gets the helium boost that like a Scooble did. So even if he's getting picked around 80, I'm still okay with Reagan's there. All right, let's finish off with the Kodai Senga news. Like I mentioned, he's going to start the season on the IL. I put Bradish here as well just because it was the last of the top 30, and I wanted to kind of get them all in. We've already said we've taken Bradish off our board. Until further notice, until we get some reason.
I'm taking Senga off mine as well. Like I just,
okay. So he's going to start on the IL with a shoulder here. I can get the specifics on it, but you're fully out.
Yeah, capsule strain. I believe
That's right.
It was.
Moderate shoulder strain. Moderate's not great either, by the way. That sounds like it's downplaying it, but and a strain's a tear, y'all. It's just a different name for a tear. So it's a moderate shoulder rip, and he's going to start the season on the IL, off our boards.
Yeah,
and Is like unlimited IL get you in at all
No,
if the price drops?
I mean the price will drop, but I
Well,
don't think
yeah,
it'll drop
when the
enough
price
for me.
drops.
Like
Okay,
if I can get
okay.
it for $1 in an auction,
No, it won't be that
with
cheap.
like, but yeah, it's not going to be that cheap. So
Yeah.
like, no, like
Okay. Yeah, then there's nothing
especially
else
with
to
how many
say.
teams, yeah, especially how many teams in auctions go like stars and scrubs, and
Mm-hmm.
like you can always get like a Sunny Gray for like $7 or someone
Yeah.
like that. Like I would much rather spend $7 there than on a Kodai Senga.
It's just too scary.
Yeah,
Plain and simple. It is just too
don't
scary.
invite it onto your team.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I was excited about Senga because he had such a
Yeah.
fun season last year, struggled a little bit out of the gate, found his footing, ended up with a brilliant season. The Ghost Fork is just a kick-ass name for a pitch,
But
even if it
we've
is just
also
a
seen
standard
this
fork ball.
with a lot of Japanese pitchers where they come over, they have a good first season, and then they struggle with a little bit of injury because they're not used to kind of the workload change, right?
Yep.
And
The
so,
every fifth day
um,
volume.
just something to kind of think about and remember.
Yeah, absolutely. And, maybe that'd be something to definitely be mindful of for next year with Yamamoto, even if he does come over and kind of hit the ground running and doesn't show too many issues. Maybe then the after effects would be in the 2025 season there. So,
Absolutely.
okay, we got through 30 plus. I think it's 31 pitchers actually at that list I sent you, where I could not figure out the two that I was missing. I just needed that second look at it. I sent Justin this list. I was like, there's 29 on my list and 31 on this graphic. Who am I missing? And then before he could even answer, I found them. But in
Hmm.
a weird way, you helped me.
You're
Just
welcome.
posting it.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm here for. Yeah.
just
Just my
posting it to
presence
you,
helps.
yes,
Yeah.
helped me find them. So, all right, we will continue on tomorrow with a bunch more pictures in the morning there. Probably do a little bit fewer than 31 because we have a harder out on Friday morning, so maybe closer to 20. But all next week, more pitcher. So if you like starting pitcher talk, you're going to enjoy this pod for the next few episodes. And then nothing this Sunday, right? We talked about that with you guys on Monday
Yeah, we
because you
got
already have.
Podapalooza all
That's right.
weekend long from
When's
10
it start
a.m.
on
East,
Saturday?
10 a.m. Eastern on Saturday and Sunday. We'll finish about 8 p.m. Eastern. Tons of panels. Paul's going to be on 2 starting pitcher panels. Jason, I think, is going
One
to be on
each
2
day.
panels. I will post the episodes that Paul and Jason are on this feed. So that way, if you want to just listen to the audio, but you can catch it on YouTube and Twitch, Justin Mason FWFB, or just on the Fangraphs main page. I'm just going to post it there. So if people want to just go to Fangraphs and watch it there. So
That's
yeah,
perfect, man. I
going to raise
can't
money for
wait.
charity. Let's do it.
It's a great event. PitchCon and Podapalooza are two major mile markers in the offseason to say baseball is coming and baseball is
Yep.
here. And we got games on our iPad right now, watching this Dodgers Padres game. I don't even give a shit about what's happening. It's just on. It's baseball. So I will talk to you tomorrow morning. Have a good one, Justin.
Take it easy.